Today, I want to talk to you about this book, but before I talk to you about this book, I have to talk to you about this book, and before I talk to you about this book, I have to tell you a story. It was a few years ago, and I was in Salt Lake City at a publishing conference, and everyone said, you have to visit this wonderful, amazing independent bookstore called The King's English. So on a break from the conference, I decided to go. Everyone said, oh, it's too far, you should take a cab. And I'm like, no, I'm tough, I can walk. So I went on this really long walk, saw a lot of Salt Lake City, finally made it to the King's English, which was at the top of a very steep hill, or what felt like a very steep hill at that point, and walked into this wonderful store that's a house with this warren of rooms, and every room has a different type of book. And went back to the children's section and met the people who worked there. The guy who worked in the children's section, I can't remember his name at the moment. He was so incredibly nice. He showed me their beautiful children's section. At this point, it was getting kind of late, and I asked him if he had any recommendations where I could get dinner, and he told me about this great Middle Eastern place right next door, and he called and placed an order for me so I could take it back to my hotel. And then I told them that I needed a book for a retreat I was leading at Kripalu Yoga Center, and I wanted something that was thoughtful and had a spiritual aspect, and that was when they turned me on to The Soul of an Octopus by Cy Montgomery, which I loved, which really opened my eyes to what an octopus is capable of and how smart they are and what fascinating creatures they are and how they can fit through tiny spaces, and how she felt like she was really communicating with these octopuses that she worked with. And it was a great story. And then I finished my visit. They kept the store open late for me, and the guy from the children's department said, how are you getting back to your hotel? And I said, oh, I'm going to walk. He's like, don't be silly. And he drove me back, and he gave me a tour of Salt Lake City. And the King's English is just the nicest people. And of course, I have a mug from their store, which I love to use at home now. And every time I use it, it reminds me of not only what a great store it is and what a great independent bookstore can be, but of my adventure in Salt Lake City, because that really was an adventure, which takes me roundabout to this new book called Remarkably Bright Creatures, where one of the characters is actually an octopus, and there are chapters written from the point of view of this octopus named Marcellus, and you get inside his mantle, his head, and it's a wonderful story and a charming, innovative book, and I enjoyed it so much. So these are my two favorite octopus books. Enjoy!